The Creative Colosseum would like to begin by acknowledging that we are on treaty land, referred to as Treaty 4 territory, and that all people here are beneficiaries of this treaty. Treaty 4 encompasses the lands of the Cree, Saulteaux, Dakota, Nakota, Lakota, and the homeland of the Métis Nation. We respect and honor the treaties that were made on all territories. We acknowledge the harms and mistakes of the past, and we are committed to moving forward in partnership with Indigenous nations in the spirit of reconciliation and collaboration.
We're rolling. Welcome to our next episode of the Creative Colosseum. We're joined today by two very special guests who we are really eager to introduce you to. And our topic today is using the arts to heal. I'm Allysia. This is Dave. Dave, what's up?
Not much. I'm just, I'm in tech kind of crazy land over here. So I will be managing a lot of things.
This is the first time that Dave has attempted to do a 4-mic setup.
Four-mic setup.
Yeah. It's a little bit awesome.
It's a multi-stream 4-mic setup. It's pretty intense.
Yeah.
So not to brag.
Yeah. It's maybe, a little bit intense.
Or maybe I'm bragging. No.
All right. Well, before we get started and get to our guests, we're just going to pop on over to a brief little, what do you want to call it?
A sponsor ad?
A sponsor ad by me.
It's so official.
All right. Let's take it away. Hey there, this is Allysia from Piano TV. I'm a piano teacher and I've got a bunch of videos up on YouTube if you want to check those out. I also host free monthly webinars on a variety of piano-related topics and make courses about learning piano, whether you're a complete beginner or if you're an intermediate level student. If you are interested in staying up to date with the things I've got going on, you can visit pianotv.net and join my mailing list where you will also receive a free ebook on how to practice the piano. The courses that I offer open for registration in August and they run from September to April, where you'll join a group of like-minded individuals and receive personal feedback from myself. Whether you're 29 or 92, it's never too late to learn.
All right, we're back. Well, as you can tell, there's more people here. As we alluded to, it's a 4-mic setup. That's right. So today we have a couple guests. Introduce yourselves. I'm not even gonna go for it. Go for it, Karen.
I am Karen the Krakken,
And I'm Sundance Robson.
Sundance Robson.
And if you noticed a little bit of familiarity with Sundance Robinson's voice, Robson, sorry, that's because Sundance did the opening credits and the in-between scenes and our ending credits as well. So thank you so much for doing that.
Yes. Absolutely.
Sounds amazing.
Absolutely. It's the $1 million voice. I love it.
Yeah.
The $1 million. Yeah.
I think you should get hired for all the voiceover from now on in Regina.
That's right. I'm going to spend the rest of my time doing voiceovers after this.
After this. Hopefully.
This was the inspiration.
This is the day.
I love doing this stuff.
So one thing that I want to start with and that I'm really curious about is I would love to hear about the origin story of Dave and Sundance, because you guys, as far as I know, you guys go way back, right? And I think your t-shirt has something to do with this history.
It does.
Yeah. I'm go way back.
I don't know if you can read my t-shirt. Well, yeah, actually,
think
it's not bad. It's not bad on camera. So that is linger is what that's meant to say.
This is officially decades now.
This is decades.
It is. Yeah. It is officially decades.
It has been decades. It has been, like 2 of them, I think, right? Yeah.
That's right. Wow.
That is pretty intense when you think about it. So I guess I'll give you a little bit of a Reader's Digest version of how I remember meeting Sundance. But so there was a place in town called Sears Call Center.
That's right.
And Sears, RIP Sears, it's gone. The call center in town was like, lots of people would work there right out of high school. It was a decent paid job. It was like an office job. And
what years did you guys work there? Or what year?
I was like 2000, but it was just before actually 9/11.
9/11 happened while I was there.
That's right. It was.
That's how I remember. Yeah,
that's right.
I remember sitting in like the break room.
So I think it was 2001. Would probably be fair. Was when we started.
Yeah, it was around 2001.
The only reason I ask is because I also worked at the Sears call center.
Well, you know what? I ended up getting on there through my brother, which was quite convenient.
Yeah. And that's where I met him as well, right?
Yeah.
So I remember meeting you. All I remember there was a guy named Tom who was like in Linger, actually, which we had the band at the time. And I said this in a previous episode that Linger could never keep members. It was so hard to find members. And anyway, I had just moved to Regina and I was trying to get like Linger going again with Rob. And I don't know if, Nathan was involved too, because Nathan was in Regina. And Tom like had been just talking us up like crazy because he was joining the band. And I mean, he had a lot of enthusiasm, God bless that. But, and so, yeah, he would start talking about the band to lots of people. And then suddenly he just brings me this random guy one day at the Souris Call Center. Yeah. And he's like, hey, this guy can play drums.
And I remember running into him in the hallway and Dave saying, well, that's like, he encouraged the fact that we jam.
Yeah.
And then saying, I'm not saying that you're in my band, but I'm interested in jamming with you. And then we set up the time to jam, and there was just an instant connection musically and creativity, like in the realms of creativity too. And I think that's actually, this is called the Creative Colosseum. And for me, that's something that's always been really important is, when sitting down, what sort of entity and what sort of creativity flows when you're working with other people, and I always felt that was very natural with us.
Right.
In writing.
Yeah. I just like, I don't have a lot of like super memories of what happened back then, but I do remember like when we started jamming in your basement and then auditioning guitar player after guitar player until we could find somebody that worked. Mm-hmm. But, I just remember, all of us jamming together, like me, you, Rob, and Nathan, and it was pretty like quick. Like it didn't feel uncomfortable. It didn't feel like sometimes when you just meet musicians you work with, mm-hmm. and especially for a specific project. Yeah. It just made sense.
Yeah. And also being, I guess, a lot younger then too, it's like we come together around this common interest, writing music, and it sounds awesome, and everything else just sort of fades away, and you're just with this music and creating it and wanting it to you want to take it to as far as you can take it, and Linger was a massive creative outlet for us that way. There was really no limit on what we could create and as far as we could take it, being in our youth. And I think that was really important.
Yeah. I mean, we were definitely at a time where we were like super ambitious and we had really high hopes for what was going to happen.
When they're in their early 20s.
That's right. But I mean, like, no, we had done a lot too. Like we applied for grants, we did touring, we did like big shows. Like we did quite a bit. Probably my favorite memory is we played Casino Regina for like a battle of the bands, and it was a battle of the bands to, I think the winner went and played at Canadian Music Week or something.
Was
along those
that
lines.
North by Northeast?
North by Northeast. Okay.
Yeah, to showcase there.
Yeah.
For a bunch of labels.
Yeah. So
I remember that. I don't forget any of that, man. I don't forget any of that. For me, it was just
I forgot about that night.
This is my ticket to ride, man. Let's do this, right?
I remember the first night when we won the first night.
Yeah, it was amazing.
I remember the elevator ride back down to like the backstage area. And I was just like, oh my God. Like
signing the wall.
We're like one night away from possibly, getting to that next step. Right?
What happened?
A number of variables kind of came into play at that point. Yeah.
One of your most beautiful memories.
It was, so on my end, Dave has his own story about what happened. I have my own story about what happened. And funny thing is I don't actually remember Dave's part, but I remember my part clearly. We were about halfway through Shine Through, which was like one of our main single songs.
And it exists on Spotify.
Yes, it's still there.
Is it there now?
Oh yeah.
I never knew that. Look at that. Okay.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I'm checking out after this. About halfway through Shine Through, I dropped my drumstick. I only had 2 sticks.
Oh no!
I never had backup sticks. I never had the stick bag.
That's right.
I was like old school in it as hard as you can old school it with 2 drumsticks and playing on a drum set that wasn't even mine. Oh. And I dropped that drumstick and it landed far enough where I knew I was going to miss a beat to recover that stick. And it was just a matter of time of trying to find a place of where there was space to get it. And I was like, there's not really any space coming up here to get it. I'm just doing the one arm thing for about a minute. And I just was like, I'm going to eat this right now. And however it goes, it goes. And I went and picked up the stick, but there was a sense within the energy of the band that there was a stagger, the energy shifted dramatically and then it recovered. Right. And then we went and continued on. It was a great set. Otherwise at that stage of the game, the only option is to play a perfect set.
Yeah. And
Because the other band was flawless too.
Mhm.
yeah, and the other thing is when you talk about Battle of the Bands, it does get really subjective. It's kind of what's in and what's cool at the time. And there was another band, they were originally called Pillar, but then they were called Ghosts of Modern Man at that point in time.
Yep.
And they were popping off, and that style of like post-punk kind of hard, I don't know what to call it, but
They were tight.
yeah, it was tight, and
They
that was
were really
taken off.
tight.
Yeah. So I mean, they deserve to go for sure. I didn't have a good night. I felt like my set sucked. Like I didn't sing as well as I normally do. I was all over the place. I was trying too hard. I was just flailing all over the place. And I mean, it was a full house.
Mm-hmm.
Like Casino Regina sold out. And I'd never played in front of that intense of a crowd before. And also a lot of people were there for us. Like it was, I just remember coming out, like we all came out one at a time. We had like this whole entry thing we did during our, what's that song called? This Narrow Path. We played that first.
Yeah.
And they had like a whole choreographed light show for us and everything. Like it was intense. And
Smoke. There was
smoke. There was everything, right?
Man.
And like we came out on fire at the start. It was like, wow, like this is big. This is a big deal. But then little things like that happened throughout the set. And honestly, I feel like I choked under the pressure. I just hadn't had that kind of pressure ever as a performer. And I'm like, what, 20, 21 or something. I don't even know how old. We were young.
Yeah.
We were so young.
I mean,
you know,
for me too, it was like music was always a place. And also, we'll get into this conversation a little bit later, but sound and what Karen and I do today is like sound and music has always been a place for me to get well or to recover. But at that point in my life, music and my mindset, everything was almost coming from a place of lack. Like, let's make it big so I can leave here and never come back.
Yes.
Versus today, I want to do as best as I possibly can so that our home and the people that are around us in our community have the best thriving lives that they can possibly have, right? I want to stay here, right? It's totally different mindset altogether. And being in that type of setting and being a Casino Regina with, the building full, pro sound, smoke, lights, drum riser, and the whole band, and just seeing what that looks like. It's like when you're there, it's like, I don't ever want to leave this. I want this to always be this way from now on. And like, that was sort of what winning implanted that seed that like anything beyond this, like if you don't go beyond this, what's the point?
Yeah.
Right. Well, you learn in life, right?
Yeah.
But at that point, it wasn't. It was just life had taught me before that. If this doesn't work, everything now gets to fall apart, right? Versus it's just one thing, like along the way, continue, keep going, relax.
Well, and you've obviously, and we'll get into this, but I want to hear more about what your journey has been along the way since then. But I wanted to start with how your origin story, you and Karen, how you guys came to know each other and work together.
Yeah. I think it's time for you to talk.
It's time for me to talk. So we met, officially crossed paths in 2019, earlier in September. I attended one of his gong baths, and I say he doesn't remember. He was in another relationship at the time, and my previous 18-year relationship had ended the beginning of that year. And then I had been attending some late 2019. I had what I call my grand awakening. We won't get into that today, but I'll just throw that out there for at some point in the future. So I was attending these weekly meditation groups, and we had a shared friend. She had brought me out there, and then she brought him out there. And I'll never forget that night because we were in the room, and he walks in and he looks right at me. And what did you?
I'm like, fierce and fiery.
And I was like, what just happened? Right? That's my private Instagram handle. And he just came in. I was just like, I'm like, what is happening right now? Kind of like a shock to the system. And then you sat beside me, and then we carpooled the next week. And then from there it was It just was, right? Yeah, it was this undeniable connection that made no logical sense.
That's right. Yeah, we would come from two drastically different lanes in life, for sure.
Yeah. But there was just something else going on, and we trusted. And that was right before March of 2020, when the world closed down, right? So we met 2 weeks before that, and then
it's good timing.
Yeah, it was. It really? It was like the universe was like now before, right?
Because it wouldn't happen otherwise.
Yeah. And so the thing with sound, frequency, and vibration, and utilizing gongs and other instruments from around the world, music for me morphed into that because it was me, right? And what now was sound? I wasn't interested in playing in bands and playing in bars and touring around. I was finding myself more not isolated, but just being cool with being kind of by myself and doing my own thing. And that was where the gongs came out. And I always had them with me. It's funny. I had my gongs in the back seat or the trunk of my Chrysler 300 at the time. And I would travel around with them. And if I just happened to be at someone's house, I'd be like, do you mind if I bring my gong in here and play it for you? And we did that at actually our mutual friend's place one night. And everybody was just sort of laid out to the gongs, and it was really cool. And when we started stepping deeper into our relationship, the sound instruments were set up in her basement. There's a really interesting story about what happened the very first time I ended up at her house.
Oh, I didn't. I meant to bring it for show and tell.
Oh,
so
you can describe it with.
I will. So, the fall before this. So this happened between when we first kind of crossed paths in September and when we officially met February. I went to a fundraiser, and I'd felt this. When you just feel called towards something, and Tibetan singing bowls. So they're brass bowls, right? And there was this at the fundraiser. I was like, whoa, there's a set here, right? And I was like, you know what? I'm going to put down one bet. If I get it, I get it. And if I don't, I don't. Put down one bet, left, went and sat down, and I ended up getting this singing bowl. So it was in my basement and on the windowsill, which was high up. And so we met the first week, we carpooled because this was out in Moose Jaw the second week. And I was like, well, do you want to come in and see the basement? Because I have a large space. We could do these gong baths down there. And he walks down and looks over and sees the bowl and says,
"That's my bowl." And so I had donated that bowl to an organization that was created, a nonprofit, and they did a fundraiser. And so I wanted to give them something of significance for me, right? Because I wasn't giving them money. I was giving them something that I had trained with and been practicing with and utilized. And I was like, that bowl really does mean something to me. So I'm going to give them this bowl. And yeah, that was the bowl that
I picked up.
How wild that you ended up with that thing.
It's crazy. Yeah, it is totally wild.
Yeah. I still remember you're like, that's my bowl. Then you're like, well, no, it's not my bowl. You was like,
yeah. But I felt my energetic attachment to it. Like when you see something that is yours that you haven't seen for a long time, or that you think is yours, you're just like, oh, is that even that shirt that Dave's wearing?
Yeah, that's my shirt.
I'm like, that. It's really kind of cool.
It is. Yeah.
And so those instruments stayed at Karen's place, and she got to messing with them.
Yeah. I have no musical background in this lifetime, I like to say, right? I came into sound through you.
Yeah.
Even rock concerts and stuff. My entire life, I've been to 2 concerts. When I was a teenager, Backstreet Boys, that's it.
Oh.
Side note.
Great.
I know. To take the pain away with little, we are going to Metallica in August. He's taking me.
Where?
So, Edmonton.
Edmonton.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
is that an outdoor show?
No, it's their first in this whole for their new album. It's 2 nights.
Okay.
Friday night and then Saturday night off, and then Sunday night with a couple of other bands. So we're gonna see if Lars can keep time.
He's probably got a drum track. He's just
that's right.
So, but that's what I love about our story is that music has been his life, and I came into this new. And as human beings, we all have a connection to sound. And if we just pause and receive that and open up to it, and the feedback I get I've had people who, are really into music, and they'll be like, wow, I like the way you blended that bowl with that gong. And I'm like, it's so intuitive. It's so intuitive. And as humans, we have that capability. And that's what I really love about sound.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I was just going to say, I'd love to hear more about Sacred Compass, and then it later evolved into Spirit Wealth. Is that correct?
Absolutely. Yeah. Do you want to actually share about that? You're very good about explaining these types of transitions.
I love it. I love the surprises in life. So, we were we sat down with a friend. They had an opportunity in their business to transition, and they still had a year left on their lease. And she approached us and she said, "This is a very special space to us, and we have this opportunity." And I woke up this morning, I was thinking of you guys, no strings attached. What do you guys think? And we're just like happy-go-lucky doing sound baths in our relationship.
Yeah, like
been
really,
dating for what, 2 years? I think at that point that was, yeah?
Yeah.
2 years. And
I was really quite content in doing sound journeys and gong baths and yoga studios at various places in Saskatchewan. Like having a place that wasn't, this is where I go and play all the time.
Yeah, it's like being on tour.
Yeah.
I was quite comfortable being constantly on tour.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So she's, and I'll never forget that. You looked at me and you were like, the universe is calling us to task.
Yeah. The universe is calling us
and
to
we're
task.
like, all right, give it, we'll think about it. But we felt it, we felt the prompt or the push or the tidal wave. I like to see it as like we can kind of be on a surfboard floating, right? And waiting. And then that tidal wave comes in and you either surf it or you get tumbled in, right? So we jumped on the tidal wave. We said yes. And we did. We were like, well, we have savings. And you even said, I love how you said this. You said, even if we go this whole year and don't make a dime, we have the savings to do this and we're going to learn, we're going to grow. And so
there's almost no downside because money's just money, right?
Right. Yeah. And it's been in a Sacred Compass, we now know was the container for the journey, a Sacred Compass journey, right? So the container for this piece of the journey, as like the greatest training program, coaching program, schooling, all like swirled into one that we could have never thought to sign up for and was like gifted to us, right? Is how I see it now. So yeah. And then, but it was the journey. It was that piece of the journey. So Sacred Compass is disappearing back into the ethers. You'll see the font around. We're still going to use the font, but
and just so listeners kind of know, like Sacred Compass journey, you said, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess, how would you describe what, I know we're kind of talking about what things you did, but how would you describe what that company was or what the kind of, just so they kind of know what it was. Yeah.
So it was Sacred Compass Journey Fellowship, Inc.
Okay.
And the best way I have to describe it is I call it my spiritual logic. So what made sense to me, because it was in support of this journey and to get us to spirit wealth and beyond, because there's more coming, was we incorporated it federally to the federal, like, so that the idea was like the federal government, and made it a fellowship, which is kind of the reference to the church. And it was to support, I believe, what this guy's going to be creating for truth and reconciliation in this country.
Right. Okay.
And so it was the container. So I see it as like, there was the government and church's role in what happened in our country. And then there's us creating something I call it 180 magic, to reverse that and be a part of that journey, shifting that around. So that's how I see Sacred Compass Journey, was the container for that process to get us to spirit wealth.
Yeah. And spirit wealth really being the innate wealth that we all have within inside of ourselves. When we access that wealth and we access our talents, gifts, and abilities, we access something that can give us access to different things in the world. I love that you're doing something called piano TV. That's like the coolest thing on earth. Because if someone finds out that they're good at piano and they love it, and it's just within them, wow, like, you know how many people that will help that don't even know that could possibly be what they were searching for their whole lives, just by you making it available to someone, right? And so it's the same thing with spirit wealth. It's like, I don't know what people are going to access by being with me. I just know that within myself, I've accessed something around sound. And I know that by me doing that and being that to my greatest ability, that will help someone access whatever that thing is for them, right? Because it's not about getting caught up in the doing this and doing that. It's about getting caught up in the presence of being in that performance or whatever it is that we do so naturally. When the people that we're with see that, it will flip for them. They'll see it. They'll see it for themselves. Hey, there's something inside of me here that has always been there that now I'm seeing I can access. This is a real possibility. And as soon as they see that, it's like something just changes in their reality.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of other things sort of fall to the side and they see, I really have a gift and ability here. And it helps people move forward. And that was essentially what sound and music happened with me. That was the way it all sort of played out. It was over time, I had a lot of trauma to work through in my life. And sound was always there for me to, it was like my safe space. It was like my place of pure creativity, right? And from time to time, I would come up with things in my life that were that I struggled at, or that I wasn't good at, or that I just judged myself harshly around. And then I would come back to my creativity and see, wow, there's like a genius here.
Right. Well, okay. So first of all, thanks for saying that. I really appreciate that. And I
Yeah.
like the way that you're thinking about it. I'm almost imagining like doors open. You help other people open doors that they didn't know were there, which helps them become more whole, more themselves. And this feels very much like it's not just work for you. It's something that you're contributing. It's something that you're creating genuine value for other people in their lives. And one thing I was thinking about, and maybe I don't know how much you want to get into this, but there's a sense of if I'm responsible to other people and other people I have a duty perhaps to other people to help them. I have to show up to other people. Then that is a thing that just that habit of responsibility is enough to get me through really dark times. And if I didn't have that ability to contribute or the responsibility that my creativity has for other people, then I wonder that in more difficult moments of my life, if I would have, I don't know, if my path would have been a lot different in a negative way.
Yeah. No, I'd love to actually get into this. That's a great perspective. And for me, I relate to that. Because I would book out so far into the future when I was doing sound journeys and gong baths on the road, all over Saskatchewan, into Manitoba, I had to stay clean. I can't be driving across the province on drugs or loaded. That won't happen. So stay clean in between these things. Show up, do your best, and come home. And those gongs, like I looked at those gongs as those things like saved my life, And a couple years ago when everything was shutting down, we had a friend that was really close with us, ended up being in a position of where he wasn't too sure about what work was at. And I thought, hey man, you know what? Like, if you're willing to do gong baths, I'll open this up to you, and you'll be able to charge people to do gong baths. It'll help put food on your table, essentially, right? The same thing that it did for me, right? But for me, that was actually really difficult, because when he came to play the gongs, it was like, well, wait a second now. Now that like I've gone and said this, now he's like playing my gongs, my gongs, right? Like,
In your credit, the first two gongs were yours before we met.
that's right.
The rest were
Yeah, the rest are not.
the rest are not his gongs.
That's right. So, but for me, there was this thing, right? Because it was like, you don't play my guitar,
Mhm.
And when someone would come and play my drums, I would just sort of stand there and watch them, and I would just like try to make them feel uncomfortable, right? So they would feel odd about the whole experience, right? It'd just be like, so then they would never ever try to do that again.
Yep.
Right? Like, how dare you try to show me what to play on drums? But anyways, that was just my mindset around music. It was this thing that there was a selfishness in it for me, because it was the thing that was keeping me alive. I felt like it was the only reason I had to live. It was like my life support. And yeah, don't come near. Right. And so I really challenged myself in being willing to, I use the word, let other people play these gongs that I had worked so hard so hard with. And Karen was the one that challenged me on that. What if?
So
what if someone else played the gongs? I don't know.
So this is something you mentioned just really briefly along the way, and I'd love to get into it a bit more. How did you manage to transition from day job to full time with creative efforts?
This is so interesting. Like, I was actually go for it.
Well, like I said, I call it divine guidance, universal prompts. It's just like something sets in and I see it, and I do not hesitate to take action when that drops in. So I just saw it one day, and I was talking to my friend, and I was like, this is going to happen. She's like, call him into the office, right? So he was outside at the old house, and I was like, can we come have a conversation? I'm going to need you to come into the office. Like, we're at work, right? And I sat him down and I said to you, this is your 2 weeks notice to hand in your 2 weeks notice.
So a month.
Yeah, isn't that interesting? Yeah. This is your 2 weeks notice to hand in your 2 weeks notice. So that was what I was like. I was like, okay.
He was sitting in a chair just
Let's
like this.
expand on this a little bit.
Yeah.
And and then you came around pretty quick and saw it.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So she saw me, she saw me operate at my fullest when I was doing sound. And when I was doing my coaching work, she saw me at my fullest. So why aren't you doing that full time?
Mm-hmm.
Really simple, right? And quite simply, I really liked the job that I had. It was comfortable. It was like,
what were you doing?
Were you machining?
I was a machinist.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I was a machinist. And like I said this to a lot of people, it was literally like going from one living room to another living room. When I'd wake up in the morning, it was just like I was driving not to work, but I was just driving home again. Because I had spent a lot of time there, and I liked the people I worked with. People that worked with me liked me, and this is a really good atmosphere. I just enjoyed it. It's that simple. And so, but it was comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And at the same time, it wasn't what I am here to be doing, and here to be spending my time on. And I saw that, okay, I'll do this. I'm not giving my 2 weeks notice. I'll set it for the end of the year, and I'll give everybody that's involved some time to hire someone else and all that sort of stuff. And then we ended up getting a call from a coach that I work with.
Yeah. And this was it was in the time in between. So we'd had this conversation. He hadn't handed in the notice yet. And then boom, out of nowhere, what drops in?
So a coach that I work with, Ankush Jain, amazing world-class coach. And I've been working with him off and on since 2017. So I do want to acknowledge him here. It's really important for me to acknowledge him. He had an extra space. He had someone drop out in the last moments of this immersion that was happening. And he decided to call me. He said, hey, listen, I've got this space available. If you want it, it's yours. If not, I'm actually not even going to call anybody else. I'm just going to leave it at what it is. But we got a good group of men here, and I'd love for you to be a part of it. And so I thought, okay, well, we talked about it, and she was like all in.
Mm-hmm.
She's like, you go and do this, right? So then I look at the calendar and I'm like, well, when is this immersion? Well, it'd be in 2 weeks.
No, it was within a month.
It was within a month.
Yes.
So in that radius of 2 weeks to 2 weeks.
Right. And it was the end of November.
Yeah.
So he wanted to give 2 months. I was like, give 2 weeks. So then that
Split
popped
the
up.
difference.
But this is my favorite part of the story. So then he's like, well, I'm still going to take it right to the wire. I'm like, give 2 weeks. He's like, I'm going to give 3 and like leave the next day.
Yeah.
Right. Just taking it to the wire. I'm like, give yourself space. No. So in that time frame, we end up getting a third. We had 2 cats, and we end up getting a third kitten out of my sister on a farm and the neighbors, and it just happened. So we have this third kitten, and we wake up, and it's his last day of work. He could have been done work the end of snowstorming. There's a snowstorm, and he has to drive out to White City, right? So he's got to loop around, and he's getting up, and he's like, and I'm just there with the new kitten. We're warm in bed, and he's like, why is this feels so hard? I went, you chose it. I was like, you could have given 2 weeks and been done.
I could have, I wanted to stretch it out right to the wire. Right?
Yeah.
And
is there like some like hesitation in terms of, oh man, this is like a big change, and like I mean, I can relate to this a lot as an artist in terms of flipping back and forth between like secure, employed labor versus self-employed artistic stuff, right? And I kind of don't have a preference myself, but at the same time, I like every time I'm in one of them, I like crave the other one sometimes. Like I'm just like, so I can imagine there would have been a little bit of hesitation of, oh man, like this is a regular paycheck. I don't know what's going to happen. Like was any of that going on in your
For
brain?
sure, independence, all that stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, previous to my relationship with Karen, I think the longest I'd really ever spanned a relationship was 8 months. Right. So that's another thing that was totally new for me, was being in a relationship with someone that was so committed. It
wasn't just work. It was like, I'm going to be self-employed and be in this relationship seriously and all at the same time.
Everything. I'm be a big boy about this. And not only that, but now if something catastrophic happens and this doesn't work out, then I have a lifeline. Right.
Right.
I don't need to then figure everything else. I just always need a plan B. That was the story of my life, right? Like plan B was like, I based my life on plan B and forgot about plan A. And then I wasn't living plan A.
Mm.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And with Karen, it's like, plan A is plan B.
Yeah.
Plan A must work.
Yeah. Well, it must have taken, I think it takes an enormous amount of courage to leave something that's good for something that's better, because I think it's easy to quit the really crappy job, right? Oh, I hate those people anyway, whatever. Why not? But if you're, leaving something, no, I like these people. I like this work. It feels like my, second living room. It's really comfortable. That was really difficult to leave. And I think most people get stuck at that point. So it's really admirable that you were able to kind of jump anyway.
Yeah. So speaking of, transformation and all those kinds of things, I think before we move on, I want to show a little clip from our old band Linger.
Oh yeah.
Because
right.
You're going to get some context of like, here's me in Sundance now.
You mean there's still a chance?
And I just, let's play this clip. And it's from a music video called Swaying Image that was filmed by Rob Hillstead.
There we go.
It was a film project shot on.
Right on. Shout out to Rob.
I think it was shot on 16 millimeter black and white film.
Yeah.
It was shot at Souris Valley, which
of course
is no longer there, in Weyburn, Saskatchewan. And
that's right.
And what's the other? Oh my gosh, what's the name of it? Fort San. Fort San. We shot at both of those places. So this is a little clip. You're going to see Sundance Eyes. See if you can recognize us. And for those of you obviously listening to the podcast, you're just going to hear the song. But here we go.
As hard as you try to betray your ways, the hatred instilled from birth wins its face. I feel your cries from the earth to the sky. I wonder why she's still murdered in vain. She's still murdered in vain. She's still murdered. As hard as you try to ignore these lies, the swaying image.
Oh, the chalkboard moment.
So
what a wonderful blast to the past there.
Crazy old video. Like,
that's awesome.
This is 2001, 2002. I don't even know.
It was right around there.
Rob Hillstead was in 2002 at the time.
Yeah. 2002, I remember, because there's that picture of us in that one sort of elevator shaft-ish type looking thing.
Yeah.
It was 2002.
We did a lot of like, Souris Valley, for those of you who are listening and don't know, it was like a mental health institute in Weyburn, Saskatchewan.
Legendary one.
It was massive.
Absolutely legendary.
Apparently, it's one of the largest buildings in the Commonwealth at one point in time.
They used to do acid testing there in like the
60s. Yeah, one of the McKenna's. It's if you've ever read the book How to Change Your Mind by, is it Michael Pollan who did that book?
I don't know who the author is.
I think it is. But there's he does talk about the Souris Valley Mental Institute.
Yeah. Filming there, and we took photo shoots there. Like, it was just if you lived in Weyburn, you hung out there a lot. It just, the vibe of the surrounding area and the building was, I don't know, it was spooky.
It had an energy.
Right?
Even the driveway up.
Oh,
at night,
man.
it had the lights at the end. It looked like a skull.
Like a skull.
Yeah.
I know, yeah. So
it's pretty metal.
But anyways, so as you can tell, Sundance and I look a lot different now. And well, according to
I said you look
according
exactly
to
the
Allysia, I look
same.
exactly the same, but very different phases of our life. So
yeah, totally.
So I guess now moving into this, like using the arts to heal kind of thing, and talking a little bit about your own journey of that transformation, because it seems like you did use the arts to heal. Well, at least that was one element of what you were doing. Yeah, tell me a little bit about kind of that journey from, you know, Sundance Robson, who was in the middle of rural Saskatchewan partying and getting into trouble in bands like Linger, to like now being this sought after, spiritual person, right?
Yeah. I guess
it's a big question.
It is because it's so funny. I never would have thought that my life would be the way that it is today. Even like we still have my condo that exists, right? And I'm taking calls there internationally. And I just wanted that condo when I purchased it for a place that I could do drugs in. That was why I bought the place. I needed a place to do drugs. And I was being paid well at my job. And so it just all worked out for me. So I had some really dark moments in that place. And even when I met Karen, I had that paint, the place was all grayed out and it was very dark colors. And now the whole place is white. And it's just like there's a plant in there, and the plant's name is Scully. And it's got a totally different energy in there because it's been a place for transformation to occur. And it's incremental. I think the one thing I've seen in recovery over the years is people put a lot of pressure on themselves to change overnight.
Yeah.
That's like huge. It's like, and myself included, holy smokes. Like I was like, you're never going to get it. This is the narrative that I kept telling myself. You're never going to get it. You can't stay clean. You're constitutionally incapable. It's is like, is what they say in one of the readings, right? There's just some people can't because they're constitutionally incapable. Well, maybe that's me. Maybe I'm one of these people that can't. Maybe I need something else, right? And although I had a really difficult time staying clean, I just continued to go back over and over and over again and not give up. I had a glimpse that it was possible to live without being on some drug or putting something in me, like ritualistically putting something in me all of the time to function. And I was invited during my first year of recovery by a mutual friend of me and Dave's, who's just actually passed on this past August.
Right. Yeah.
I'll say his name's Dustin, rest in peace.
Yeah.
He invited me to my very first gong bath in 2006 in the fall. And he said, "Hey, you want to come to a gong bath?" And I was like, "What's that? Like, that seems so weird, And well, just come. You have to come check it out."
That's so amazing that it was him who like recommended that. Knowing him, he just doesn't seem like the kind of guy who's into that kind of thing.
Yeah. So he's just like, "Come check it out," right?
Yeah.
So I went to this gong bath, and I remember being there and at that first gong bath, and it was for me, it was cool because when I closed my eyes, I saw colors, and it was like yellow colors. It was like sort of like when you close your eyes in front of the sun and it still seems bright underneath your eye lobes. It was like that. Like I saw colors, and some people see different things. But for me, it was simple. I saw colors, and I just thought it was really cool. And I felt really relaxed. And I didn't stay clean after that for too much longer. In fact, that was 2006. I never actually got clean until 2013. So there was a lot of years in there where I was only able to stay clean for like a week, 2 weeks, 1 month. And I would flip-flop back and forth. And I always had my guitar to rely on. And eventually, between all of the using and music, I just came to a point where I was out of drugs and when I went to pick up, I remember that first use, it didn't make the itch go away. Like I used and I felt it still was there. It was that feeling that I wanted to go away, that the drugs made go away. It never went away. It was still there. And like the whole weekend I used by myself in my condo and it never went away. And when I was out, I was like, I was out. And that was a real problem. And I collapsed on the floor. And in that moment, I realized I can do better. It wasn't like this moment of, now what? It was this moment of, I'm done. I was like this moment, I collapsed because I was done holding up my addiction. And I was going to stand up and take responsibility for my life and knowing that I could do better. And I did from that day forward. And that's where the sound started to come in. You know, I had come to a spiritual plateau a couple years later. It was around 2015. And I was like, I remember I went to a gong bath, you know, back in 2006. I wonder if there's someone still doing gong baths, you know? So I reached out to a friend who I thought might have an idea about gong baths. And sure enough, she got back to me and said, there's one actually happening at the end of the month. Send me the link, I said. And sure enough, I went to that gong bath, you know, all those years later. And I came out of that gong bath feeling, again, this real sense of restored bliss. And I realized, you know, I didn't even really need to do anything to have this good feeling inside of me. I just went there, I laid down, they played the gong, and I felt good. That's a real simple equation. It needs to be simple. I can't do complicated. And from that point on, after the gong bath, I went up to them at the end and I said, hey, would you be okay if like I helped you out and maybe the next gong bath you do, I'll help serve. I got into service right away, you know, and I think that's the best thing for people wanting to get clean or wanting to even experience some type of transformation. You know, we actually were just on she had a call with a coach who's been in Forbes just this past week. Oh. And they're advertising an event in Arizona for the end of summer. And I went and looked at this event, but the very first thing, I didn't look at how much tickets were. I looked at, do you guys need volunteers? Because there's still even a thing for me that's like, if I can just get in there and be around the people that are serving, I'm going to see how this whole thing works. And for me, that's where transformation is possible. Transformation doesn't usually happen for me watching. Transformation usually happens through immersion, right? And that, I mean, we're also doing an immersion in Costa Rica in December and in November. She's also going to be running one in November. But this is an opportunity for people to come and immerse themselves. Being in these settings together in immersion helps inspire transformation because we start to pick it up.
This is actually fascinating when I think about like live performance as a whole. Like, you know, because I think all of us probably have been to concerts and enjoyed, you know, concerts, right? And I know it's like somewhat
even
different.
If it's only one or two, right?
Yeah. But it's like there is something transformative about being in a group of people experiencing something like that, even if, you know, some of these concerts are whatever, they're, you know, Nickelback or something, but
hey, man, what is it saying? Either you love Nickelback or you're a liar.
Or you're a liar.
No. I don't want to get into the Nickelback debate, but I'm just kind of saying that like every live performance with a group of people there's something transformative and healing about it. But
by participating.
Exactly. Right. And so I get what you're saying. It's like, you want to be in with those people in that vibe, doing something, and there's something connective. Like you experience it in everyday life in these kinds of events without realizing you're experiencing it sometimes. I think, you know, unless somebody's being really self-reflective, you don't really think, oh yeah, I just had this great concert experience. Like they don't think about why they necessarily feel that way at those concerts. But that is, I think, one reason why. It's like you're hearing this music that maybe you connected with emotionally and maybe provided some therapeutic value for you. And and you have other people there you're sharing that with, and you're all sharing energy. Like, it's just naturally almost makes sense then that you would do it more in your kind of setting too, right? Like even more so, like the sitting in a room together, hearing vibrations and having an experience together, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And jumping in to help out, which is beneficial for you because then you get kind of that inside experience and you can actually transform, as you said.
Yeah.
But it's like a net positive for everyone involved, right? That's such a great idea.
Yeah. One of the things about helping out too is like, I saw that I never had to be like a person that was standing by themselves that paid admission to go into something that was, I thought would be like self-development, or I went somewhere to some convention and just be someone with a name tag standing in a corner that was hard to approach people. If I was in service, then I'm actually around people that I'm actually engaging with for a purpose where I might not really know what to speak into, because when I'm starting to get well, I'm trying to find my purpose. I don't know who I am. I mean, that's always going to be mystery, I think, in some way. It's just service. There's a momentum that's moving, and you're able to sort of move with the movers. And it's kind, honestly. It's quite kind for me. That the service path was great, and it's something that I'll always pursue. It'll always be there.
I love your idea of that it creates movement, because I can absolutely imagine myself being that, shy person in the corner in this giant social situation like a conference or something, not knowing what to say or how to approach people. But if you're helping out, it's built in. That movement, like you said, is already a part of the deal.
Yeah.
That's great. I'm gonna have to like keep that in my mind as an introvert.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is there anything you want to say around this?
No, I hear what you're saying though, right? Like, because if you're in the room, and this is so actually, I'll just go for it. We're creating events now. There's all these new ideas coming through.
Yeah.
Does this have to do
and
with the Costa Rica thing that you mentioned?
everything we're creating, actually? Yeah, and
Something else just came up this past weekend. I don't know. If
Yeah,
you hit on that.
so, but the idea that you have these people, like these speaking events and these sound activations and this sound thing we're going to be creating. So you have your people on stage. The thing is, I'm calling it background beats. There's the support or service crew that's just as important. And so when we advertise these, we're going to advertise both, right? So I'm so excited to be like the leader in the like background beats, right? And my friend and I came up, we're calling it, she's like the 4 horse mistresses, which we're starting with, right? But that we have this support crew, but they're just as well known as the people on the stage when we're presenting to everyone. And we're the ones running around. Can we get you a drink, or hugging people at the door or welcoming them in? And I love this idea. This is because what we've created, actually, I'm going to flip back to the building for a second. So the building we're in, the building has a name.
Mm-hmm.
And what is the name?
Kigino.
And what does that mean?
Our home in Cree.
In the Cree language. So at these events, I want to welcome people into these events, like we're welcoming them into our home, because it is our home for the day. So how do we, so we're going to have a team of people that is. So like for the introverts who maybe want to be of service, right? That's a really beautiful place to be in too. And then you get to run around helping people all day, and it's a ton of fun. And so that's actually a big component of what we're co-creating together. And that's becoming very clear.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so the run up to Costa Rica, it looks like we're creating an event that's going to be called The Sound of Being. And we just formulated that this past weekend.
No, it dropped in today, mostly yesterday.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So
live updates.
Yeah, really live time. It's going to be a whole day event. We got to approach some people and this space. I know where we're meant to hold it. And but yeah, and what I love in this life, we get to create whatever we want. And that's really awesome, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we are actually, it's going to look different than I think anything that ever, because we actually get to blend all of our favorite things together, and things that you think don't quite go together. But when you put them together, it's like when you have, all the leftovers, and then the next day you mush them up together in one soup, and you're like,
plate.
Right. And you're like, oh my God, that was incredible. I would have never thought.
What
it
would
could
be an
that
example
amazing.
of some of like pairings that you think are unusual for this event?
While we're pairing sound activations with like keynote speaking to start. And there's things I don't want to give away as a surprise.
Yeah,
Totally
yeah.
fair.
Yeah,
Totally
yeah.
fair.
At the end
I
of
would
the
love
day,
for
but
you to
like
just
take
give it
home
away
bags,
anyways.
like treat bags at the end of the day. Like you go to a kid's party
I say we just
and you get a
spill
treat
it
bag
all.
at the end
Spill
of the
the
day,
beans.
right? But like all these favorite things and really tapping into like that childhood joy around it too,
Yeah.
right? Like I am so excited to have like an event that we blend these corporate vibes, right, for these speaking engagements. And then you blend in like this really the sound alchemy with the
Yeah,
gongs and
ancients
like
the ancient sounds and
and we want to
the
bring
voices.
in another group that has kind of like a very the drum circle vibe. They're very
Yeah.
cool, like kind of
Mm.
reggae. I don't know how to
Mm.
describe them, but very like cool and performance like, and bringing that aspect right into this corporate idea of setting, right? And then at the end, give everybody treat bags. Because like,
one
who didn't love getting a treat bag as
Right.
a kid, you know?
something that's like for me is really important with sound and music is for people that are curious about sound and music is that they know they're qualified.
Yeah. And you mentioned this
Like you're
earlier. at the
qualified.
beginning.
Don't like
Right.
what do I need to do? You need to be you. That's what you need
That's
to
a
do.
great point.
Yeah.
I want you to be like people to think they're qualified and that there's no distance between you and being able to play a gong. You need to be able to pick up the mallet and you need to be able to hit it.
Yeah, it's not about technical proficiency and all these things
No.
like that. Yeah.
We got to tap the inner child here
Mhm.
and let that child go nuts.
And I think that's actually a really great point about, what is healing about what you're doing. We come, like three of us here come from very technical musician backgrounds,
Absolutely.
right? And, we're really high on proficiency and interesting structures and timings and blah, blah, blah.
The stuff that takes decades to develop.
Yeah.
100%.
And that's not accessible to most people, to anybody really. And it's, like if you're going to use like art should be an expressive thing. It should be a healing thing. And sound should do that too. And so there's no reason why somebody can't just create something from sound, no matter what it is, right? It could be, maybe I'm banging a bucket and I don't know,
Or
what I mean by
as
that?
you've mentioned, you always have access to your voice. as
Yes,
your voice,
the voice.
exactly.
And as an example, we're working with a school and I asked the teachers, I'm like, they have drums that they haven't really used. It's all provided. And I was like, how interactive do you guys want to get today?
Yeah,
And they did
tons of
grab-
maracas.
And at the
Yeah.
end, because of drum circle, I'm like, I'm just asking you guys to lean in. I'm going to hold a beat the whole time as the foundation. And you guys, I want you to let it flow, whatever you feel called to do. And I'm like, it'll take on so I did cast the spell. I'm like, it will take on a life of its own. So we went, I don't know, for 10, 15 minutes. And by the end, they were just like, should we start a band? Like, because they're like,
Yeah.
did you hear
Yeah.
our beat we had
Yeah.
going? Right. And they were all just like, right.
Right.
It was amazing. And to like tap into that intuition and that flow and that childlike play
Yeah.
was just like, that'll change the world, you know?
There's something decolonizing about that idea
Oh, yeah.
by itself too, right? And I think because with colonization comes the idea of civilization and progress and
Structure.
and blah 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 blah. And this is just complete opposite of that, right?
Yes.
It's you're not like, oh well, we're gonna play this one in 5/4, and you guys need to hit on the second
sure.
and third beat. No, like there's none of that. It's
Yeah, it was all good,
yeah.
but you remember you missed that beat.
Yeah. I'm sorry, you're not going to receive the healing that you normally could in this moment unless you can play on time with 5/4. There's no
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I'm like, what's 5/4?
exactly. And we'll talk about that later on the drive home.
No, we won't. We're definitely not going to. You get 3 can, I'll just.
Yeah.
But yeah, 100%. I think that's it's something I've never locked into until today about what you're doing is this idea of it's like anti-structure in some ways. And
I saw that.
You know,
I saw that through her.
Chaos.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
chaos.
right.
It's pure
Hierarchical.
creation.
yeah,
I totally saw that through her. It's so interesting. Like me as an Indigenous Canadian, or someone that grew up as Indigenous, there's so much inside of me that gets to be decolonized too. And I had layers and layers and layers of structures that were not being helpful to me in my life.
yeah.
And she actually helped me see that. She had, because of the innocence that she went to the bowls with, or the innocence that she brought to playing the gongs and just showing up and being with the instrument and playing the instrument, she's an amazing gong player, the way that she plays gongs. And I listen to her play them and I'm amazed by the way that she plays them because I would never come up with that.
Mhm.
Right. And
Mm.
like she said, like there's no musical, like she wasn't raised playing music. And yet she's demonstrating like this incredible proficiency playing gongs like a pro, because she is a pro, you know? It's incredible to be able to witness that. And people that sit with her come across and say like, holy, that was nuts. Like that was what you did on the gong was absolutely incredible, you know? And everybody has that available.
Yeah. Yeah. That's 100%, I think, the main point, right? Everyone has
Yeah.
some of that, you know. And I have a music therapist friend who works for the health region here.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
and she works with a lot of folks in that kind of realm too, of just here's stuff. Let's make something, you know, with no expectation of what it's going to be. And that is something, and this kind of relates back to our episode about collaboration and things like that, about the spontaneity aspect of music that sometimes can get lost when you get too technical and too proficient. And really, I think in art in general, it can get hard. Like, I think I have a hard time just
Playing?
just letting go and playing.
Yeah, the play part of playing music.
Play, yeah. So no, it is refreshing to have people just come in who haven't been, like we say, programmed and kind of wrecked in some ways. But yeah, no,
Well,
I think
we have a clip of Sundance and
Yes.
this everything that we've been talking about. And what I would also like to get to is performance.
yes.
I'll
So
sing a
speaking
song.
of playing,
Yeah,
speaking of
exactly.
playing,
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So yes, we're gonna. So Spirit Wealth. What's the website, by the way? Is it
Yeah. Spiritwealth.ca.
Nice.
spiritwealth.ca? Okay. And this is 100% Indigenous owned company now,
Absolutely.
right? Yeah.
That's
This
right.
guy right
That's
here.
right.
So this is a little clip from your socials. I guess about about the concept, I guess.
There was a time when I wasn't able to receive an acknowledgement. For me, understanding how to receive acknowledgements is tied to my ability to be able to create wealth. And creating wealth is tied to my ability to receive. Something we see in our ever-expanding culture today is land acknowledgements. A land acknowledgement is like saying, I love you. Us Indigenous people in Canada are inseparable from the land. So when we acknowledge the land, we acknowledge each other. When we acknowledge each other from the place of seeing what we love in one another, we become primed to see what's already available in this abundant universe. And from that place, we get to create wealth.
All right. That's also a very like decolonized idea of wealth, right?
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. I sometimes I almost have like negative connotations with the word wealth. And
Yeah,
I
well,
think-
believe me, that name was a stretch for me.
Right?
I didn't pick
Yeah.
the name. It was like the name picked me. It's like, you're going to have to grow into this name, man.
Yeah. But I like the twisting wealth a bit. Like it's because
It juxtaposes two things that you think are contrary, right? And this sort of reminds me of what you were talking about with the
Yeah.
Costa Rica thing, having different, you know, the corporate speakers and the play, and
Mhm.
that's what the title reminds me of as well.
Yeah,
Mhm.
those polarities.
Yeah.
And bringing them
Yeah.
all together. I see it as when we we get to come in the middle into
Yeah.
balance, and from there we can go anywhere, right?
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's a great name.
Yeah.
So I guess we're gonna have a little bit of a performance, as we mentioned.
Mhm.
Maybe preface this for us. What
Yeah.
what are we doing?
I'm going to use voice.
Yes.
And so I could do this with lots of different things. I could use a drum. I could use a rattle. I'm going to use voice today
Mhm.
to sing this song. And why I'm going to use voice is because no matter where you are, you have that. You have
Yeah.
your body that you can make noise with.
Yeah.
And even if you don't have a voice, you can beat it like Tarzan.
Yeah, you could do the
You
Matthew
can
McConaughey.
Yeah, there's actually there's a gong teacher out there that says the body's a gong. The body's a gong,
That's great.
you know? So I'm going to use voice. The song is called Ogichidaa. And the song is about the warrior, the spiritual warrior. And I tend to sing this song before we go into ceremony. It really initiates the work that we're going to look at that might have been symbolic of painful for us in life, might be symbolic of suffering for us in life. It might be something that we thought was inconsequential, but was attributed to something major, but we put ourselves in ceremony to get clear with ourselves on things. Right. And so this is what this song helps initiate and invocate that.
Awesome. And for those who have no context, Sundance and I have actually recorded some of this stuff in the past.
We have.
So this is a banger, as I told him when I was preparing for the podcast. So I'm really looking forward to it.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we're just gonna make a couple adjustments here, and then we're gonna be ready to rock this. Okay.
Because we can't do it without reverb.
No.
There it is. There's the reverb.
So you are adding the reverb.
That's right. That's the first thing I said to Dave. You got reverb?
Yeah.
Okay, the reverb is on. It is going. And anytime you're ready.
Ogichidaa Ashnabia Gishidak way Ashnabia Eawa Amuoria Neawa Ogichidaa Ashnabia Gishidak
Woo!
All right.
Yeah, that was good.
Yay.
Thanks so much
fun.
for sharing that with us.
Sorry,
That was authentic. That was the first time I ever did it like that.
Yeah.
Interesting. You
That was,
improvise?
that was a world first right here.
There we go.
History making moment.
Right on. Live on the internet.
That's right. Twitch.
Yeah, Twitch.
Twitch.
You saw it first.
You saw it first. And yeah. And no,
Yeah.
and the other place that shall not be named. No. I did this on my own live stream
so
last
good.
time. It was terrible.
It's so good.
Anyways, well, thanks again for performing that.
Yeah.
And it's never gets old. It's always a breath of fresh air every time I hear it.
Yeah.
Well, and we want to finish up with we're going to do our quote of the day.
Our quote of the day.
Oh, that's so
And-
cool.
Yeah,
quote
and
of the day.
Sundance, I believe you've prepared, you've got some kind of quote that
Yes.
you're bringing to the table.
Oh, yes, I did. I took it today,
I was
didn't
like,
I?
Yeah. So
Yeah,
here it
I'm
comes.
just like,
Here it
hey,
comes.
Show us in the
did I bring a
surprise.
quote?
Surprise!
Okay,
I did. I sent
I'll
the
read
quote.
it. I'll read it because I'm close. Unless you can see it there. Yeah, you go. You read it.
Do you want to read it, love?
It's a little small.
Oh, okay. I don't even know what this is, so this is perfect.
Nice.
Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? You are a child of God. Your playing small does not serve the world. There is nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. We are all meant to shine as children do. We were born to make manifest the glory of God that is within us. It is not just in some of us, it is in everyone. And as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. As we are liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others. Marianne Williamson, author, politician, 1952 to present day.
Thank you.
So, what's the idea
Wow.
behind this quote? What resonates with you?
I think I know I would shrink myself around other people
Mm.
for sure. because I didn't want to be seen. I learned that very young as a kid. When I went to kindergarten, my name was Sundance at home. And when I went to kindergarten, the name Sundance wasn't written on my little kindergarten box. It was Justin. And that was a moment where, as a child, I went into crisis mode because the school said, Sundance is just going to be too hard for him to spell. And that really wasn't the case. I was the first generation of children that did not have to go to residential school. And so my Indigenous name was being liquidated, and I was going to be using the name Justin. So at that point, it was time to hide being Indigenous and hide anything that is authentic about you. And that honestly has been a major life journey for me, is constantly accessing my authenticity and being brave and bold enough to continue to like exude it, like a strong perfume or like a strong cologne at Souris, it's like that, like I want to be able to put that on display for myself, but it radically affects other people too, and I think that's where, for me, I've always held back, is just like, you being who you are can affect people, and that for whatever reason, I had a fear in that. And I learned that when it comes out of my own authenticity, what becomes activated in people is their own authenticity, and if there's a struggle that they're having with my authenticity, there's an opportunity for them to grow in their own authenticity, So that's why I love that quote. It's a solid reminder for me whenever I think about it.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
So where can we find you on the internet and elsewhere?
You got a couple of addresses that.
Well,
spiritwealth.ca.
Spiritwealth.ca. We also kind of have a side one going called riseagainmovement.ca. And that is a space where we're going to start advertising these collaborations, these immersions we're doing. That's where I'm on that page, and it's basically my space to brag about all the fun things we're doing with all our friends. That's why it's been created. So, so it's, I know it's going to continue to grow, and it's a movement, right? So, and we get to do this together. So that's how I see that too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also, I know you have some socials too. I don't know. Can they find you on
Facebook, Instagram? Those are my two mains.
Yeah. Just Sundance Robson.
Sundance Robson, Instagram, Sundance Robson, Facebook. And
I'm on Instagram at Karen_the Krakken.
Nice.
Awesome.
At Facebook.
That's right. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. So go hit them up. Go check it out. And
it's been a pleasure having you
Yeah.
today.
Thank you
Thanks
so much for being
coming.
here. I love the fact that there's something called the Creative Colosseum. We need more conversations around creativity, and I'm so glad that you both are facilitating that. It's massive.
Yeah.
I genuinely searched for other podcasts doing this, and there were so few that I could find even close. And some of them were old that had stopped. So no, I appreciate that comment. I think there's something very therapeutic about just talking through this stuff with people.
I want to just one more thing. People have an opportunity to see through podcasts like this that it's just like, well, what am I supposed to create? That's what you get to do. You get to create from nothing.
Yeah. From nothing.
Something. You've got nothing, which is the best thing. Now you get to take that nothing and turn it into something, right? And that gets to come from your brilliance, your authenticity. I don't know. It's amazing.
Yeah. This is why in the voiceover you say, get out there and conquer your creativity.
That's right. Now get out there and conquer your creativity.
Just do something, something from nothing.
Yeah. Pull the God impulse, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Boom.
Exactly. Awesome.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you so much for having us. And if I might add, I love the idea of the Colosseum. There's a quote. I'm not proficient in quotes, but it has to do with being in the arena, right? You're down in the arena, you're dirty, you're fighting. And what doesn't matter is what the people up in the hecklers are saying. None of that matters because you are in the arena and that's where you are. and none of the rest of that matters. So I love that you went with the Creative Colosseum. I think it's very powerful and beautiful.
That's great.
And potent.
That's great promo for our branding.
There you go.
We'll have to-
Yeah, a really
Yeah.
lovely way to finish things off today.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And thank you all out there for checking it out. For those of you who are on the stream, stick around. We're going to be doing a second part here. And for those of you listening, thanks for joining us. We'll have another episode out in about a week or so. And yeah, I'm David.
Allysia, take care, guys.
Thanks for checking out this episode of The Creative Colosseum. We'll see you next time. The Creative Colosseum is mixed and edited by David Roman. Executive producers are Allysia Van Betju and David Roman. Gear support provided by Roman Empire Studios. Theme music created by Roman Music YQR. Recorded live on location in Regina, Canada, Treaty 4 territory. Voiceover performed by Sundance Robson. Logo design provided by Danielle Austin. Special thanks Kyle Parkinson, Laura Posadka, and Rob Hillstead. The Creative Colosseum is a Nerd Party entertainment production in conjunction with Piano TV. Now get back out there and conquer your creativity.